AG Sports. It's on the web. Alright, I had to throw it in there. I did change the name to the channel, guys. Same stuff, same great content. Hopefully that you like, already. I'm going to keep it going. Today I'm going to be focusing on key numbers. And just from some comments, and not just on here, but just in life with other people I talk about betting with, I think a lot of times key numbers, people just think that they're like, self-explanatory. Like, oh yeah, 3 points is a key number because it's a field goal. Okay, well, that makes sense. 7 is a key number because it's, your average touchdown and extra point, that kind of thing. And that's true. But really the reason key numbers are key numbers is because those are the numbers that are most frequently found to be the differential between the winning and losing team throughout every season. And yes, it is because of the scoring factors. But that being said, I've had a lot of people tell me, and I'll tell you one person in particular that I used to work with, and I tried to kind of teach him about betting, and he was very interested in it, which was great. But one of the things that kept coming up was he would be like, "Well, man, you're really picky about your numbers. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't, it's a 7 or it's a 6.5 now. Why are you waiting to get to 7? Or, if it's already 7, like, how come you're trying to get off of that? Or what do you, why are you so focused around this number in particular? Like, why don't you just take it where it's at? If you think they're going to win by 3, then just, take it or whatever." Which I got his point, and I really do understand that. That's very, straightforward. That being said, though, let me show you exactly how many times key numbers play a factor, why they are so important, and where I always try to grab key numbers as well as try to tease through key numbers. And my last video, I did have a teaser pick in there, and I know a lot of people have heard all sorts of crazy things with teasers, like the casino wouldn't let you do it if it was good for you. Some people just don't want to tease anything at all. Some people don't tease total. Some people only tease home dogs. They only tease this or that. And those are all fine. I'm not telling you have to go do something. Everyone is going to kind of have to play their own, notions. But teasers are really effectively used when you are capturing key numbers. And I'm saying that not just from my own personal experience, not just from hearing Warren Sharp talk about it, but from literally dozens of books that I've read regarding sports gambling and just gambling in general, but sports obviously is where key numbers come in, and how effective key numbers are and how valuable they are. And that's really the only time that professional gamblers will use teasers. They're not just arbitrarily saying, "Oh, I just want more points." No, they are very purposeful with their use of teasers and trying to gain a particular number, whether that's a total or a side. So if you're looking on the screen right now, what you're seeing in front of you, this is the 2020 season. I go back and meticulously put in every score from every game throughout the season, starting with week 1, game 1, and obviously it shows your winner, your loser, what the differential was and what the total was. So you can come through here, you can look at every game if you want to. One of the reasons I do this, though, and one of the things that I find to be most helpful, is at the end of every week, you can find out what was your average point differential, which was a 9 for week 1. What was your average total, which is 47. We can round that up to 48 if you want to. But 47, I will tell you, is a key number. So 47.3 to be exact. Your mode, so what was the point differential that came up the most, was 10. Standard deviation is the deviation of points between one game and the next one. So if you're looking at different games, you have about a 13-point standard deviation. That number is going to be used for other algorithms. You don't necessarily need to use that. But I do this every year. I do have the 2019 one. I'll probably bring it up here on the screen in a second. But just so you know, if you go back to the 2019 stats, your mode point differential, meaning the most common point differential, was only 1 point. And so we see here this is 10. So this is huge. And what can you think caused that? COVID, right? You have teams that weren't really preparing the way that they usually would. So the good teams that are already good are going to be that much better than the bad teams who didn't have time to get any better or practice anything. So you see this huge difference in preparation and how that could have helped certain teams, and it just ended up not doing it. At least that's my theory on it. That being said, your average point total was still about the same. It was actually a little bit lower than 2019, and you had your average point differential was 13, which it's obviously is higher from 2019 to 2020, but those are still kind of within your normal ranges. You can go down the line and do this for every week. I actually do, and the reason that I try to keep these numbers in mind and the reason I keep these spreadsheets around is because you can see certain trends start to show up if you are doing this each and every year. Now, I will tell you right now, if you're just getting started and you're thinking, hey, maybe that's a good idea, I want to get a spreadsheet, I want to be able to see these trends, because it's one thing to see it, have it down on paper, have an algorithm, have expressions to find these numbers and kind of help guide yourself. And I think that that's a lot more effective than just going off of pure feel and like, well, yeah, that team looked good, or that team hasn't been playing well in the last couple of days. You have no idea. You're just arbitrarily thinking that because they did really good in one game or one quarter, or the ball bounced their way one time. So having these numbers in front of you and being able to really put a value to things is going to be immensely helpful, especially when you're trying to win long term. That all being said, let's keep going through this. And one of the things that I kind of alluded to here was like this prep time of COVID and how it really impacted people as far as teams are concerned, and being able to prepare better or not prepare at all, compared to their other team. That being said, if I go down to the very bottom at the end of the season, we can see that in 2020, it's actually 30% of games were separated by more than 14 points. In 2019, it was 29% that were separated by 14 points. If you go even further than that, like if you get to the bigger blowouts, which is like 20 points plus, in 2020, we had 14% of games being decided by 20 points or more. It's 1 out of 10 games, so basically like once a week at least, probably twice a week really, huge blowouts. And we can go back and do the math on that, but that's huge because in 2019, yes, over 14 points was still about the same, 29% to 30%, but in 2019, it was more of like the 14 to 20 range, 14 to 17, 14 to 20, somewhere in there. In 2020, you had these huge blowouts that were sort of the norm, at least once or twice a week. Aside from that, though, this chart up here tells us there's 256 games in a year. How many of the games in the year were decided by 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points? You get the idea. 3 points is the biggest key number, and this is a number you are trying to grab when possible, and that is because 14% of games are decided by 3 points. Not 3 points or less, not 3 points or more, 3 points exactly. 6 points is 7% of the time. 7% of the time you have 7 points deciding the winner and the loser, and 10 points and 14 points you have 16% of the time, 6% of the time show up. Every other number is going to be less than that. It's about 4 to 5% for any other number. And so a lot of times people ask you, or they'll ask me, or I'll hear them asking other people, why do you not tease through zero? Like, what's the big deal? I want to get through zero. I want to have my team go from being, favored to being, giving me a 1 or 2 point dog. Okay, I mean, that's fine, and that's your prerogative. But let's say that you are at a -4. Let's take the Ravens. They're at -4 for week 1, -4.5 actually. If you tease that team through, you're going to go up to +2.5. Okay, that sounds good. You are getting the 3, which is important, but the 2 points and the 1 point is only giving you an 8% chance to win total. On the way back up, you're really also only getting the 8% chance to win, and you're not going to get back to this 3 again. So you're helping yourself by grabbing the -3, but that's really it. Once you go, because 2 doesn't give you a lot of value, 1 doesn't give you a lot of value, 0 doesn't give you any value because no game is decided by 0 points, and then the 1 and the 2 on the other side give you very minimal value as well. So that's why a lot of people say not to tease through 0. You're not getting your bang for your buck. Now, if you're teasing up, so let's say that it's a +1 game. The Giants line right now, the Giants are actually it's a pick 'em right now for their week 1. But let's say that when they first came out, it's the Giants +1 at home week 1. If you had teased them up and you got to the +7, let's take a look at what you would have gotten out of that. So you would have gotten the 4 here, so that's 8, plus another 14, so that's 22, 27, 32, 39, 46%. You would have had a 46% increase in chance that you win that wager, or at least push with the 7 if your teasers push, depending on what book you're using. That being said, quick note, the next video I make, guys, is going to be about books, which ones you should pick, which ones are even out there, what they do, pros, cons, bonuses, how to use them, what they mean by rollover. I'm doing a lot of this because a lot of times I think not just myself, but a lot of gambling focused channels and books and a lot of other stuff, if you're looking out there, just immediately dive into the heavy stuff, like assuming that you know these things. And let's start with square one, right? Like, we got to know where you're going to be making your bets, but we'll save that for next time. Like I was saying, this is why you're trying to get these key numbers. Again, if you are just kind of keeping this in mind, or maybe you just want to screenshot this, put it on your phone, whatever you want to do, remember that these are your key numbers for NFL. And you're trying, if you're going to use a teaser, or if you're going to be buying points, don't buy something like from 4.5 to 5 points. It doesn't help you nearly enough, because they're going to charge you, and remember, they're going to be charging you typically like 10% to move a half a point. So you're going to be charged 10% to get a 5% chance to push, not to win, but to push. So it's very important that you keep these numbers in mind. Like I said, I can show you 2019s just so you have a kind of an idea of how valid this is, or how sticky these numbers are. So these are the 2019 games here. If you go again back to your key numbers, again it's 3, 6, 7, 10 dipped a little bit in 2019. That was 5% instead of the 6%, but 14 also 5% instead of 6%. But you had 7 points was a 12%. It did come up 12% of the time. That was the deciding factor. 3 points was down 10%. So these 3, 6, 7 are really the go-tos, and then you have 10 and 14 kind of as your secondaries. But even here in 2019, we see that the 3 points, again, 10%, 6 points to 7%, 7 points was 12%. So even in 2019, where the 10 and the 14 weren't as valuable as they were in 2020, and again, I think some of that was because of the preparation time and COVID really causing a bigger discrepancy in one team to the next. But still, these are the key numbers you want to get, and why you want to get them, and still teasing through 0 or buying that half a point that's not going to relate to a key number just wasn't cost effective, guys. So this is why you'll hear a lot about key numbers, and why the pros use key numbers, and why books are very, very resistant on moving on to or off of key numbers. So a good example is like the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. It's at 6.5 right now, so they're right between 2 key numbers, and depending on how you look at it, it's almost kind of like a 6 is not as valuable as 7 usually, but it's a minor key number itself. So they're right at 6.5. So what they don't want to do is they don't want to move up to 7, have people take a lot of money there, have to move back down to 6.5, and then if something happens and it gets bought back down to 6, now they're just really in a jam, because you have key numbers on 6, 6.5, and 7, and so odds of that game landing one way or the other, whether it's 6 or 7, relatively high, right? Because altogether you're looking at least a 14% chance that then the game ends on one of those numbers, and if it does, now depending on how the money worked out, the book is really in for a bad day. Especially if it ends up being like 7, and they have more money, they have more risk on 7. That's what they're trying to avoid. That all being said, guys, that's really, again, why key numbers are key numbers. That's why you don't want to tease through 0. That's why you want to be looking for these key numbers, not just buying random half points as they come up. I get it. I know a lot of people are like, they want that extra half point. They want that kicker. They want to say, you know what, if I can just push, if I can just push, that's better than losing. I understand the school of thought, guys, but understand that you are going to be paying 10% just to possibly get your money back, and most likely you're not going to be getting that money back. You're going to pay 10% for a lot of times what it is, like a 2% or a 5% additional, added value, and a lot of times it's not going to work out, unfortunately. So that's what we've learned. If you have any questions whatsoever as far as like weeks, what to look out for, what trends there are, let me know. Ask me in the comments below. I'll go back to my data. I'll let you know. A few things that I can tell you right offhand is going to be weather. And so this is something that usually gets forgotten about once we get started. But week 8 is where you want to start looking for weather. Doesn't mean week 8 is going to be a bad weather week, but that's when you start looking for it. Those first 7 weeks of the season aren't really too bad. You don't really get a lot of crazy games. You will get some here and there, but that's not the norm. And we can tell looking at this because week 8 in and of itself was not really a higher scoring game. It was 44 on the average. As we keep going though, 47, 46, and then we see it drop to 43, and then we see a 41, and then we see another 43. So we go from having average totals of 48. This is 38. This is a really low week. But 48, 53, 52, 46, 52, 43, 51, 46, 47, 44. These numbers here dropping immensely down to 43, 43, 45, 45. So week 8 and beyond, be aware of the weather. Also, as far as key numbers with totals, and I apologize, I should kind of glance over this before. Key numbers on totals are going to be 44, 47, and 51. So those are your 3 key numbers with totals. I apologize that I have a different spreadsheet on a different computer laptop that has those numbers on there, but I can show you just on averages here where those are coming in from. So averages back, this is 2020, this is 2019. So 52, 47, 51, 47, 48, 47, 45, 45, 52, 47, 50.5, so 51, rounded up, 47, 51, 52, 52, 53, 47. So we see a lot of 47s, guys. 47 is a key number that is probably the main key number with totals, and then 51 and 44 are your 2 lesser key numbers if we go down to 2019. And the reason I like having these 2 side by side is because we have to remember that 2020 was drastically affected by COVID and preparation time, and defenses, if you don't remember, weren't actually hitting in the offseason. So these first few weeks here, we had higher scoring teams, and we had the referees kind of swallowing the whistle. They weren't throwing flags, and you probably heard about that last year, that the referees were sort of trying to let them play, not throw too many flags, because a lot of teams had not prepared as adequately as they would like to, and they didn't want to slow the game down too much and make it unenjoyable. So keep that in mind. We'll go back to 2019 now. I see the average is 48, 38, 46.9, 47, 43.6, again 44 is coming up there, 46.4, 44, 46.9 again, so about 47, 43.7, again about 44, 47, 46.1, 43, 41, 43.9, which is about, again, 44, 50.8, about 51, 48, 45, 47. So a lot of 44s, 47s, and then some 51s. So this is why your key numbers are your key numbers. I'm sorry for harping on this, but I just want everybody to understand why we say these key numbers and why there's so much value in grabbing these numbers, guys. We're not just telling you to tease. We're not just telling you to buy points just for the hell of it. That being said, I hope that you learned something here. I hope that you kind of better understand how influential these key numbers are, how frequently they do come up. It's not just like a 1 or 2% chance that you're paying for. But thank you again. Look out for my next video. Like I said, I do have some books as far as like where you're going to be betting that I would like to not necessarily recommend, but just kind of expose some light on as far as like pros and cons. And I don't want to say one book is better than the other, mainly because each person is going to have a different requirement. And so some books are better at giving you bonuses, some are better at paying you out, some are better at using Bitcoin, some are using Some better are just at paying for pushes. Some don't pay for pushes. Some want you to go through mailing as far as getting your money out. Some want you to go through wires and fees, and some can only take it out on certain days. There's a whole line of thoughts there, guys. So I'll get into that on the next video. Hopefully find you a good book to go with and save you some money. But other than that, have a good day. Thank you again. I appreciate all the support.